Yeah.
I got my underwear on.
Nice, nice, good. I'm glad you have that. Hey,
Okay.
Coach, how you doing?
Hey, hey, everybody. How are you?
Good, hanging in
Going
there.
great. Going real good.
Alive.
Alive, I know. Aren't we all?
Had a great Father's Day yesterday, so that's good.
I saw the pictures. Hey, Jared.
What made it so awesome?
Just got to be with my two amazing young adult kids and had great dinner and some quality time. So my son's right in the process of buying his first home, so that's exciting for him.
Does he need a good lender?
He said, "Does he need a good lender?" Oh, we
Different
lost.
dynamic.
There
Yeah,
you
different
just cut
dynamic.
out for a second.
Oh, you got me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
Yep.
can. You got disconnected. Make sure your internet bill is paid, Lord.
Cool, cool, cool. All right, I am super excited you guys are here. I think about all this stuff and coaching and training and I have a friend that's in the sales business. He sells cleaning supplies to like restaurants, hotels, that kind of stuff. He was in a management role and he managed 5 or 6 guys. He literally went to these guys and he reminded me kind of a little bit about coaching and training. He just every day he's like, man, you just got to pick up the phone and call. You keep in touch. You write notes. You do this, create a relationship and stay in touch with them, right? And they did some downsizing and his dad kind of helped build the company up. Do you guys have eco labs in your area? Have you heard of such a company?
No.
So, I mean, they're a pretty big company and his dad was pretty high up. So he's in this management role, following his dad's footsteps. And again, yesterday, even losing his dad a couple years ago, it's still like it was yesterday. So he, when they started downsizing, they were doing away with some of those management roles and they actually put him back down into sales. And a lot of times I see people that coach or train or office managers or any of that stuff. And it's just like, has this person ever really sold a lot? You guys know what I'm talking about. And this is a guy that taught what he did. And when he got put back into the sales role, I was like, dude, Will, seriously, this little title that you're worried about losing, because he was just all negative about it and just bummed out. And I'm like, you have no idea, like going from that role back into sales, how much of an opportunity this is for you, because you know what to do and you coach to it your guys all the time. He is over 200% of his goal every single month. He's been a salesperson at the middle of the month. Like he's going to be 600% over his goal as a salesperson at this company because he's just doing what he knows he needs to do. Like from the management position, he's holding himself accountable. So I get that a lot of people don't hold themselves accountable. That's why we get coaches and stuff. But here's my thought is that this is not me just teaching because movement has me come out here and share some stuff with you and I've got this ego that I want to be on the screen and be the teacher and all this stuff. No. Guys, what we're talking about in this session is 25 years of what I figured out how to sell 100 properties a year and not do the stuff that's hard. I mean, it's not easy to do this, but it is so simple that if you just really create a system for capturing, connecting with people, and then you keep that connection strong and really stay in touch with people, there's a pipeline of business that just keeps coming out because you're the trusted advisor, right? You're their go-to person when they think of mortgage or money. They're going to just pick up the phone and call you first. All these people that are, well, everybody's calling on these realtors nowadays. Yeah, but nobody can remember who the heck the last 10 people were that called them. You guys got what I'm saying? So when you take this stuff and we really put it at this mastery level, not because I'm teaching a class, but because Brad Korn knows this is how you guys are going to blow up your business from personal experience, that if you do this stuff, these realtors, when they get a call from a guy at lunch, she goes, dude, we have got the reverse mortgage master. He's like, we are kicking butt. We're the #1 company doing reverse mortgages. You can add 10 sales a month to your sale lot, your pipeline. That they're going to hang up the phone and go, you know what? I need to call Lauren and ask him if that's real. I need to call, they need to call you because your name pops in their head and goes, I just want to find out if this is real or not before I go have lunch with this guy. Before they go have lunch with them is not going to happen once they call you, right? So in the real estate industry, you're going to be transferring this message that you're learning from here. You want to, hopefully you guys are excited about this enough that you talk to your realtors about it and go, oh man, I was just in an amazing thing today, just checking this, about top of mind marketing, and that you'll share it with them so they'll start doing it with their database. Or ultimately, what we know we could control is if they gave you the database. If you develop that trust level that you are their go-to person, they're probably going to hand you their database at one point in our overall process that I coach to. I've been coaching this for years. And when I get realtors to hand their database over to their LO, which is who we're coaching, you guys, it's a whole different ballgame. And the day you get a realtor to do that, you'll just be like, holy crap, it works. But you got to build that trust level first, right? And the realtors are not doing a great job of keeping in touch with their database. So it's a great way for you to get in and not only help them blow up their business, but you're also going to blow up your business by doing that because you're the one helping them do it. Does that make sense? So that's why I get pretty excited about this stuff. And I mean, I got to tell you, this is 16 hours. So I'm cramming it down to 8 hours so I can get you all the content without taking an entire year to get it to you. But we also have this group call once a month, and then we're going to have another call, and I've got it on the calendar. I'll pull it up before we jump off, but we'll have a Q&A, open Q&A for you guys to come back after a week of this, taking the information from today, applying it, and then whatever your roadblocks you're hitting, whatever, objection somebody used to not give you their address, we're going to address all that stuff on our next group call, which is more of a one-on-one for you guys that are going through this course. There are some other coaching clients that I've invited in on the group call as well, because it's such great information. So I know this is a 1 hour, and the group coaching is like 2 30-minute group calls a month. I don't get too hung up on that. It's going to take an hour to get you this good information. We might be finished a little early today. And let me pause there for a minute. Has everybody seen the first session? You either came to the first session or you've reviewed the first session. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what we're doing is we're building on top of everything, and it's a step ladder. So we are going through the process. That's the part I hate about coaching is it's always a process. I can't just give you the whole 16 hours and have you master it in a 30-minute phone call. So we do have to go through the steps, and every week and every month that you're applying new stuff to it, that's what you're going to bring back and either text me or call me. I mean, if you apply this stuff today and you have a question tonight, text me and call me. Don't wait till our next group call. Let me know when you guys need something. So I'm available for you. Okay, let me see. Any questions about the topic that you saw today that you had a vision of something that you wanted to walk away with? Reconnecting with past clients and databases. Just to kind of, let me go ahead and share my screen here. Figure out where that is on here. I've got multiple boxes open. Share screen. There we go. All right, I believe it's this one. All right, you guys got the screen in there. Can you see that okay? All right, cool. So let's start with this. I mean, just to kind of, what do you think about when you see this topic, reconnecting with your database and reconnecting with the people that are in your database? How would you rate your current contact system with people in your database on a scale of 1 to 10? I don't have a database as 1. 10 is every single person in your database hears from you consistently, persistently, regularly. So on a scale of 1 to 10, just write down what number you have.
When you say hear from you regularly, does that mean get in my emails and opening them, or actually speak with me? when I'm
Great
picking-
question. Yeah. So if you were to look at your database and go through from A to Z and you were scrolling through, could you tell me who that person is and where you met them at and when was the last time they talked to you?
Gotcha. That's what it is. Okay.
Great question, though. Great question.
With clients, I know who every client is. With leads, no.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, so how many years have you been selling now?
7,
7.
almost.
How many loans have you, like, if you just rattled off your last 7 years, how many loans did you close each year? Starting with last year, going back as far as you
I
can remember?
total closed about 285 or close to like 300 loans.
300 loans.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, even with those 300 people, if you went from A to Z, have all of them talked to you in the last week or two or last 30 or 60 days?
No, only those whose birthday was, so I called them on birthdays. That's the only.
Yep. So we do lose touch even with those 300 people. I mean, think about this, guys, 300 past clients. How many of those 300 people have you talked to in the last 30 days? How many would say 0 to maybe 1 or 2?
So
Past,
call 100 in a month, you're saying,
yeah.
and
Well, if
talk
you
with
call-
them. I mean, how can you talk with 100 people in a month? You can leave messages, but you call people, most of the time you're going to leave a message. So do you mean talk with them or leaving a message?
So I'm talking talk with them. The difference
That-
here is taking your business and quadrupling the volume that you're doing right now. You're doing, every one of you are doing an amount of volume, and it might be good volume and you might want it to be a little better, but the amount of volume you're doing right now is based on the way you're doing it right now, right? If your 300 past clients heard from you, so think about that, 300 past clients, some of those people, a good 100, 150 of that example are from 5 years ago or more, right?
Yeah.
So if the average person is moving every 5 to 10 years, there's 150 people that are moving now in the next year, 2 years, 3 years out of that list of what we just said, 300. There's 100 of them at least that are moving in the next couple of years, but we're not doing 100 transactions just from those 300 people yet. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So that means we're sucking at staying in touch with them. The emails aren't doing it. In fact, what I would challenge is, out of those 300 people, of the 100 people that have been in their house for 5 years now that are moving in the next couple of years, we'll capture 10 or 15 of those 100 people naturally, because they just pick up the phone and call us from being a past client, and they did get our emails and they did get our stuff, right? But 100 of them will move and we'll get 15 of them. And when somebody says they're doing 30 or 40 transactions a year, and have you guys heard the term where it's by referral? My database is where 90% of my business comes from. The thing on that is, if you're telling me that 90% of your business comes from your database and your past relationships and by referral, by people that are already in your database, then you're saying that there's no new business really coming in. There's no new people bringing new business in. And I don't care if you talk to a real estate agent or you talk to a loan officer, probably 50% of our business is coming from somebody for the first time using us, from an ad call, from an internet lead. Would you guys agree? I mean, if you really, really looked at it, we're not doing somebody who's a by referral only business. Those numbers don't work. They don't add up in my world. And if they do add up, if you understand it differently, I love to hear it, because I can't figure out, you can't be a 98% referral, because then you have no new business coming in. You're literally just working your database. And I don't know anybody that does that. Does anybody have anything to go along with that sounds different than what I'm saying?
Well, Brad, the only thing I would say is that when I say my business is referral, that doesn't mean that it's not a new referral. It could be a new client referred by an existing client, or a new client referred by a referral partner. That's what I'd say referral business.
Yep. So 98% referral means there's no new business coming in, but you were referred by somebody. What
Yeah.
I would ask then is, can you track that referral back? So like if you start tracking it, you'll get the real numbers. So let's just say, I mean, I'm using real numbers. I'm not literally just pulling numbers out of the air. This is 20 years of coaching 2,000 real estate people in the real estate business, mortgage and agents. And when I start tracking the numbers, we see a different story than what we've been telling ourselves. So if there's 300 people, and let's just say 100 of them or so are going to be moving in the next few years, if I got referrals, like if I got 15 of those people to do business with me again, just from my natural ability, I probably only had like 5 of them actually refer me somebody. Now, if you're really good at getting referrals and you got 15 of those people to do business with you again, did 15 of them refer business to you? Probably. I don't see anybody that's 100% referral getting 1 referral for every piece of business. It's possible if you do it right, but nobody's really like doing it. We just kind of put people on drip plans and we don't talk to them for a while. So we might be getting a referral from somebody that's not in our database yet. And then that's the next question is, why aren't they in the database and on a follow-up plan so we get more referrals? Does that make sense? So coaching causes me to ask more questions. And when somebody states that, I'm like, great, let's pull up your sales from last year. And this sounds like a real tedious exercise. But if you wrote down every sale from last year and just wrote down, were they a past client? And did I have them on a follow-up plan? And what really got them to do business with me? And when we start doing that, you kind of find that, oh, crud, about half my business came from somewhere outside of my database that was just me out in the day talking to somebody who said, oh, my sister's moving. But see, that would normally be somebody that would go in the database. And then we follow up on a system like this, and you're going to do business with them and you're going to get more referrals from them rather than just the one-off. Being in the right place at the right time. Because the other flip side of that is, that if you divide that 10 years, 5 to 10 years into the number of people, like just say for 100 people, if they're moving every 10 years, it's 10%, right? Are moving. And if it's every 5 years, it's 20% of those 100 people are moving. So the next 100 people you talk to, 10 to 20% of them are moving this year. They're actually doing a new purchase loan this year, 10 to 20 of those 100. But when you talk to the 100 today, out of those 10 or 20, only 1 or 2 are one of those 10 or 20 that are moving right now, this month, right? And actually this month, there's still a couple more weeks in this month. So those 1 or 2 people might not even know they're the one this month until next week. Does that make sense? So then we're actually going to talk about that 12 to 2 return a little bit today. So I'll bring that back up. So the reality is that if I'm talking to somebody and they give me a referral and I was in the right place at the right time, that was the 1 out of the 100 that were moving. But the chances of me getting the other 99 of those referrals and the next 99 people of those 100 that are moving are slim to none. And so that's what everybody's been doing, is we're all just focused on that hodgepodge, getting a very low return. You've probably heard 1% to 3% conversion rate. When people are selling leads, they're talking about, well, really about 1 to 3% will convert into closed business. That's because there's always 1% to 2% that are moving at any given time. So even the best internet converters are at 3. Great comments. Anything else on this? What'd you guys write down for a number?
I wrote down 4 myself.
4.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else want to share some numbers? Anybody got a higher than a 6?
No.
Okay. Then this is good. We have good content to talk about. All right. So let's jump in this. I want to get through the content so that you can come back and watch the recording again, go back through your notes, and then bring any questions you have. Let me know. If you're on the $395 coaching plan, we're going to have a group Q&A, open Q&A. And if the group Once more people involved to ask more questions, I'll invite more. Our groups say small groups, 6 to 8 people. I think you can get 10, 15, 20 people on a group call and learn a lot from each other. And some of the 795 clients are doing a little more volume, and that's why they invested in the one-on-one calls. I mean, those are the kind of people I do want hanging out and asking some questions sometimes, because we can pick up a lot. But the call really, that Q&A call is for the 395 coaching clients. The 595 and 795 clients get the one-on-one call where we can really address things one-on-one with you. So anybody's welcome to join that call if you can add something to it, or just want to hear everybody asking questions and understand it better. Because once you master this, remember, it took me a year to get to the point that I'm telling you, where I fed the database every day. I was keeping up with the calls, doing the notes, feeding it every day, and being on purpose. When you said, Lauren, when you said, how long would it take to contact 100 people because you get voicemails and stuff? If your focus is 5 a day and you really focused on it 5 days a week, knowing that you're building this pipeline of business that's going to kick out 100 closed sales a year, you'll talk to 100 people every 30 days. If you did 5 a day, 5 days a week, that's 25 a week, and that's 100 a month, which means by the end of the year, you would have 600 people that you've connected with, written a handwritten note to, and so forth. You get 600 people that you're personally connected to, and they're moving every 10 years. That means 60 of them are moving in the next year. So there's 60 transactions right there that if you captured 30 of them, you just doubled or tripled your business. That makes sense? So that it's about chunking it down, and you kind of do this as a pre-layer to your day, and then you go do everything else you're doing during the day. You're still going to have realtors you're meeting. You're going to have event opportunities, training classes in offices, Christmas parties they want you to host, all that stuff. But once you get this piece down that we're doing in these courses over the next few months, when you master this and you take everybody from all that stuff and you start putting it on this, you will quadruple your business, because now you're on purpose about staying in touch with people and they're not getting away from you. So today we're going to highlight reconnecting with the past clients, which I do love this section probably more than anything for you guys, because I think you can double or triple your business without ever talking to another realtor. And it's all in your past clients, right? And if anybody needs anything to add in or jump in or ask a question about, speaking of jumping in, it looks like it looks like Rock's about ready to jump out of an airplane. It looks like you got a parachute on, dude. So reconnecting with your current database, focusing on the relationship building part of it, capturing their information, like from social media, like getting to the point where the craziest thing ever is looking at people's database and we don't have addresses in the database. When you talk to real estate agents and their database, do you know that probably over 95% of realtors have an 80% to 90% database with no addresses? And I'm just curious, like, what do realtors sell? Houses, right? Real estate.
Real estate.
And a freaking address, and we don't have addresses in our database. This is the dumbest thing on the planet, right? Dumbest thing ever. You guys probably could fill in the addresses for a lot of people because you have to get it for something, I bet. Do you guys have to get addresses or not really?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
When you're going through your stuff, so you know which property they bought, especially for past clients, which we're talking a little bit more about today. So it is about finding those opportunities, understanding the 12 to 2, becoming top of mind so that you are the one that they think of. It also is that follow-up material, like what does that really look like, and getting into the handwritten note. So that's what we're talking about now. And these start building on each other and they start getting a little more powerful each time. So it is important that you grab onto the task today and work through them and get them in place, because we're going to start building. We're going to go from a 4-step action plan today that should be easy for everybody to, or simple for everybody to put into place. But that's going to turn into an 8-step action plan, and then it's going to turn into a 30-step action plan. So if you skip the 4-step action plan and then you try and catch up later on the 30-step action plan, it'll blow your mind, and then you'll become overwhelmed and you won't do it. So we're going to talk about writing out those action plans and what that looks like. All right, so the Reconnect plan is the one that we're going to talk about today, and that is, here's a great way to find out how well your database is. Those 300 people, the example we had earlier, mail everybody from A to Z, like pull up your whole database, print off a mailing label, and mail them something that's got return mail on it, a first-class postage stamp. What I'm saying is, if you have 1,000 people in your database, I want you to mail 1,000 pieces this week to them, just something in the mail that's got a first-class postage stamp on it, and see how many of them come back with the yellow stickers of death. You guys know what the yellow stickers of death are? The return mail. That's when you start to get a reality of just who has moved in your database that you did not keep in touch with. And those are the ones, Lauren, when you look and go, dang, I had 90% open rate, but 20 people, I got the yellow stickers of death. And if you mail something next month, to another 10 or 20 will come in. And that's another way that you can start going, holy crud, I got to clean up my database. So one of the ways, with social media today, when we're talking about filling in the missing information. So last session, we talked about creating a master list. And we talked about like going to your Facebook friends list, any social media thing where you have people following you or you're following people. There's some reason that you clicked to follow them, and there's some reason you accepted their friend request, or some reason they followed you, that they like something, or they saw you, or they think they know you, or whatever, or you had great content. Maybe you haven't actually met yet, but you need to meet with them because they followed you, right, on Instagram or whatever it might be. If the social media world would take that and break that down and try and find those people's addresses and phone numbers, and Gary V, for example, is anybody familiar with Gary V, the wine guy? Right? He's got millions of followers. He like randomly talks to people, just calls people out, sends them direct messages. He can't get to the million people, but if he did 5 a day, 1,200 people a year, can you imagine what it's like if there's anybody big that you're following and you get a personal message from them, right? Kind of cool. So when you look at that, getting all those lists and writing those names in a notebook, what I can tell you about the mental part of this is writing a name down. And actually you should have a reality here when you're doing this. If you do that exercise, you're not going to know who 90% of those names are that you're writing down when you're writing them down. That's actually why it feels like it's a waste of time. It's like, I don't even know who these people are. That's the greatest reason to be writing them down. When I have my letters come out of my mail every day, and it's about 100 letters a day, I print the labels off. I'm going through, I've been doing this for 25 years, this level of database mastery. And I'm telling you, 80% of the labels, I don't recognize who the name is, because they are new internet leads that I'm not super connected with, or we're not totally connected yet, and they're just on my monthly mailer. We're still waiting to convert them. But I can tell you, there is less than 10% of the letters, less than 10 of the letters every single day, can I see a name and actually write some kind of personal note on the letter. There's only about 10 out of 100 that something triggers with that name that I can actually add something funny, or, Happy Father's Day, without, how many of you look at a list and you're doing the Happy Father's Day, and then you're like, wait, I don't even know if this guy has kids. I don't know if I should send him a Happy Father's Day or not. That means you're disconnected. So only about 10% of my letters that go out every day can I even personally add something to it to be a personal note, which I'll slow down here for a second. The personal note on my letters that I put in the mail's pretty critical, and so are phone calls. The emails and the text messages, even with your open rates and things like that, doesn't mean they're looking at anything. And it's so quick and short that you can forget about it, right? Tell me the last 5 TikTok videos you watch, if you even watch that kind of stuff. I just, it's too short, too quick. It's not top of mind. But when you get something in the mail, like a handwritten note after a conversation, they're anchoring you to that. Or when I put a little chicken scratch note on that letter, this is just somebody that's getting a letter once every 3 or 4 months. and it's coming in the mail, but I do something like, hey, I forgot to tell you Happy Father's Day. Hope you had a great day. It's as if I just called them and said Happy Father's Day. So anyway, just little chicken scratch things like, oh, I saw your Facebook pictures last week. It looked like you had an awesome vacation. And it's just like, that's about 10% of them. So social media will actually tell you what they're doing in their life. So when you get this systematized and you're supposed to, like the system says to call them in 4 weeks. If it's on your call list today, you can pull that person up on social media and see that they just did a golf outing with their children on Father's Day, and you're calling them on 4 weeks later after you've written them a note and started this little plan. You can actually call them, and when they call, you can just say, man, I just had to touch base with you. I was goofing around on Facebook. I don't do that very often, but I saw that golfing picture with your kids. That was amazing. I just had to call and tell you I was thinking of you today. It's like, oh man, can you see where that phone call is going? It's just conversational. It doesn't have to be about mortgage. And 98% of the people aren't doing anything with mortgages. So why are you going to hammer them with all these mortgage messages? So in turn, what we end up doing is not doing anything because, well, I don't know what to talk about and they're not buying or doing a mortgage or anything right now. So I just don't want to bug them and pester them. Well, just be a connection and touch base with them. So use social media from that perspective. Also, you're going to find a lot of times that in the social media for the real estate section, now to kick back over to realtors, every realtor should have on their Facebook profile their address, their phone number, how to get a hold of them, their email. So when people say, how do you find their address? I mean, if you're talking about real estate agents, they should have their address somewhere. They're a freaking real estate agent. If they don't, then they're a secret agent and they're not doing much business. And that may not be the realtor that you should be having in your database. You guys got that? So realtors are the easiest ones that you should be able to find addresses. Insurance people, divorce attorneys, CPAs, financial planners. These are other great resources that we don't really focus on, and they all probably have their address online somewhere. They probably all do. Consumers may not, but you can find that out a lot of different ways too. Any questions about that so far or clarity on anything? So it's being a legal creeper without being a creeper. You may say that sounds creepy to do that. Yeah, but you're not a creeper. So, okay, it's called information source. They've got robots doing it on the internet all day long and sending us crap. So you're doing it for a relationship perspective so that you can ensure that the people that have crossed paths with you have a great experience. And in many cases after today, you're capturing people in your community so that you can get them with a good realtor, because realtors are not created equal. You guys of all people know, I love talking to loan officers when I talk about just how many idiot realtors there are out there. You guys know, you work with 80% of them, don't you? They don't know what they're doing. You probably have a handful of people that you would let your mother do real estate with because they know what they're doing. So you can guide those people back to agents versus just letting them end up with whoever they end up with. But this is the biggest part. Just what we were talking about. How can you get in touch with 100 people? Man, there's so many things we want to do. We want to attend the closing, schedule the appraisal. We got to get our meet new agents and go get some partner marketing agreements. We have to, oh my God, Coach Coin says I got to write notes every single day. We got to do all this stuff. We are busy, 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 busy. There's a lot of crap to do. So what you do have to do is create a system to make this part happen, because it's all, I mean, you guys have heard it. I don't even have to say it. It's all about the follow-up. It's all in the follow-up. What's some of the quotes they say for the follow-up? The gold or something is in the follow-up, or anybody know any of those?
Is in the follow-up.
Fortune's in the follow-up, right? And I love it when I'm on like a webinar and somebody's like, it's all about relationships. Have you heard the word relationship more now in a lot of training? It's all about relationships. So for $39.99, you can buy our Facebook video program that will drop videos out to your database. Guys, that's not relationships, right? I mean, if you send me 20 videos, I'm going to watch the first 2, and then it's white noise after that. In fact, while I'm watching several top realtors I know from the last conference we had a year ago. I meet with 200 of the top realtors every single year at a Star Power conference. And at the last conference, there was a video session. All of a sudden, I saw about a handful of my friends really doing heavy videos, but I'm watching them and it's 6 likes, 10 likes, 18 likes. And I'm like, man, that is a lot of work. He's putting out a video like almost every day or two, but it's like getting 6 likes here, 6 likes there, 10 there. I actually saw one that he had 63. So I don't know what he did for that, but getting 6 to 10 likes and worrying about getting this video out on Instagram so I can have my social media program running. Guys, just get 5 people out of your master list and call them and write them a handwritten note and let that relationship grow. The Instagram stuff is not making anybody rich. Having 200, 300 followers is not getting them rich. So what you have to do is create a 20-lane highway, a system that can handle 5 a day. I said was 25 a week, was 100 a month. Now I'm only going to be talking to 5 people a day, but I'll have 100 people over a month that I'm talking to 5 people a day, and I just made 100 personal connections. Go down the road a little bit. Do it again next month. Do it again the month after that. Do it again the month after that. If you kept adding 5 people every day all year for 12 months, that's 1,200 people that you've personally talked to, connected, right? Wrote a handwritten note to, and put it in the mail, and they received it. And now you're touching them 8 times in 8 weeks. In fact, now you're going to move them to 33 times a year. We're talking about that system today, right? Same one we talked about last week. How are you going to do 2,400 people on year 2, or 3,600 people on year 3, or 6,000 people on year 5? If you did this for 5 years and you have 6,000 clients that you've stayed in touch with consistently, persistently, regularly, with phone calls and something in the mail on top of the emails and text that they're opening, that's not turning into 100 deals a year. Once you do that, if you have 6,000 people and they're moving every 10 years, what's that? How many transactions is that a year? How many people are moving every year? Anybody got the math? 600 people are moving every single year. Do you ever need to worry about an Instagram video again to get business or to be in front of somebody? Do you ever have to worry about a marketing agreement with an office that's going to go not do anything anyway, right? So it is about the 5 a day. Those marketing agreements are to feed your 5 a day, not to just be there and all of a sudden have business show up, because it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked since I've been in real estate for 30 years. So building that system for follow-up, and the benefits of that systemization is keeps it consistent, persistent. You can preset up 80% of that follow-up to be like a copy and paste or an automatic go, so that when we talk about 100 people in a month, how do you stay in touch with them? I'm only making 100 phone calls a month. The rest of it is emails and text messages and automation in there, so that I only have to make 5 calls a day, not 100 calls in one day, but 5 calls a day. Who right now could handle just 5 calls a day, even on top of your business? Just 5, if that's all you had to do, right? So the system will tell you when it's time to do that. Now, I ran this whole thing through an actual spreadsheet and played it out, because your brain will try to understand what we're talking about a call on week 4 and a call on week 8. But if I'm adding 5 people a day, there's going to be a day where I'm going to have 100 phone calls. I've never had 100 phone calls come out of my system. It would take 9 months at 5 a day, the way this plan rolls out, before you would even have 15 calls in a day. The good news is that 9 months down the road, think about that. I'm going to play this out for you at an advanced level. Does everybody pretty much understand that 8 touches in 8 weeks fairly well? Raise your hand if you do. You get that concept, right? Okay. And then 33 touches a year, you get the concept about it, right? That it's just 33 touches. And I talk about 4 phone calls a year. So that sounds like a lot, but if I said in 9 months, you will not have more than 10 calls a day for the next 9 months if you added 5 people a day every day. So by then we have 900 people that we've written handwritten notes to, and we're running through this brand plan and this other thing, the long-term plan. If there's a call on week 4 and a call on week 8, and then in 8 weeks they move over, so in 2 months they move over to another plan, which means for the next 7 months to get to that 9-month mark, I'm only going to have a call every 3 months after that. So once they get through the 8x8, that call, that hands-on touching part spreads way out from every 4 weeks to every 3 months. And so by the time you start running people through this, it is 9 months before you'll have 15 people show up on one day. Does everybody kind of get that concept? But we overwhelm ourselves with all these things going on. And it is if you have to manually touch it all, it can be overwhelming. So the more we can automate, we'll talk a little bit about automation. I'm going to touch on it, but there's also a really good system to do it manually until you get it going. But real quick, just, I mean, a lot of this I've talked about with many of you already. Your database is a gold mine. You work with people that already know you, who know you, you know them. That's why creating that master list is so important, because people like doing business with people they know, like, and trust. And when we say know, like, and trust, understand that if you have 300 people in your database, then we know for sure 30 to 60 of them are moving a year. So if you're not doing 30 to 60 transactions a year without ever talking to an internet lead, talking to a realtor about a lead, that's just your past clients. Until you're doing 30 to 60 deals a year, you're missing people that already know you, like you, and trust you. We just lost touch with them. And when you compare that mass marketing, that's just something that shows up in the mailbox, versus the actual one-on-one conversations, that, again, in those one-on-one conversations, we're just being human and checking in on them, but also you are just naturally going to talk about mortgages. That, I mean, there's 2 things that people talk about at parties. It's the weather and real estate, right? They always show up at all these conversations. So you're going to be talking to these people during your one-on-one conversations about the market and about what's going on. And this is where that consistent, persistent touching base, you become the brand for that mortgage spot, for that mind share of mortgage. So that when they think of, I mean, attorneys and dentists and things like that, I mean, it's like you have an attorney, a family attorney. Well, you use that person because that's just the way they're there. The family says, go, 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 go. There's a referral, right? And that's where we're in this market right now, that if you become the trusted resource, they're going to say there's only one person you need to call. I mean, with all the internet leads right now that go to my loan guy, it's like, hey, this guy's education, he's going to tell you how to raise your score a couple points. He's going to tell you if you can get a house or not get a house. He's going to shoot you straight. So that's where, again, those referrals come in. But he's done that by branding himself in my brain so high that nobody else can get in and get that shot. Now, I actually have another guy that does really good marketing that he now gets trickled in there, but I don't give the 3 names because my broker says I'm supposed to. I'm giving names of people that I know really will help them. And I don't know if everybody's gone through this exercise, but in becoming top of mind, when you play this branding game, I wasn't going to take everybody through it today because I think I've taken just about all of you through it. There might be somebody that maybe hasn't. But what we would do is I would say tennis shoes, and you start naming off as many brands as you can think of. What's the first? What's a brand you think of right off the bat of tennis shoes?
Skechers.
Skechers.
I'm going to say something different than Nike, okay?
Yeah, right. So you played the game with me, right? You usually say, even if you just bought a pair of Skechers yesterday, you still say Nike. Yeah, Skechers, right. And the same with potato chips. It's Lay's. Toothpaste, it's Crest. So those type of things, you want to be that top of mind person that you guys get the benefit of the mortgage field. You get the benefit of money. Like, you actually are taking the mind share for the financial planners and the CPAs. And I know top of mind marketing, when you get that money spot, If it has anything to do with money and they call you first, then you're referring that business back out to the CPAs and the financial planners when it belongs to them. But it's you giving business to them, creating a partnership that they're going to give you referrals back. But you get the whole money spot. In the real estate world, I get the house spot. That's it. House spot is it. They got to be wanting to buy a house, and that's the only way I'm going to get the spot. If they think of money, then they're going to talk to you. So you get a lot more out of it. So what in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, they talk about this. They track the return on investment. And what you're looking at here is the general public is who we kind of do billboard marketing. We do mass mailings, targeting a neighborhood, you got farming a neighborhood, that kind of stuff. But when you actually, the targeted group is more of a farming a neighborhood where you're going to mail. And if you look at the bottom, it says 12 direct. That's where you're going to mail to a specific neighborhood every month for a year. You've heard of that old type of farming, right? And then as those people call you from either your billboard or your marketing, you move them into this Met area where they call and ask a question. It's like, hey, I got your thing in the mail and I wanted to find out what the value of my house is. Well, now they become a Met. And if you move them on this 8 touch and 8 week and then roll them over and then keep them on this 33 touch forever, that's where you get a 12-2 return versus those 2 outer rings are a 50-1 return. Those numbers come from actual real estate agents that have been in business for 30 years or longer, that they've done marketing so much that 12-2 or 50-1, 50-1 return is actually a 2% conversion rate. And mass marketing in general on those outer 2 rings really probably get you about a 0.25% return. But the study came from real estate agents that made $1 million in real estate. That's why it's called the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And they've made $1 million in real estate. So they were all in business for 25, 30 years or longer, which means they've got a presence in the market from selling so many houses. In 30 years, they've sold 3,000 to 5,000 homes. So that number gets kind of inflated because they've just been there so long. Every agent that was interviewed had been there. So any mass marketing they do that they're not tracking it right might be addressing it back to that. What we do know is once you stay in touch with people, if there's for every 100 people, there's 10 to 20 people moving. And if you stay in touch with all 100 people, you're actually going to capture 10 to 20 sales a year for every 100 people in your database. That's where it will get 6 to 8 times more business. Any questions on any of that? Clarity? Okay. So it is about mixing up the mediums, though. This is probably the biggest secret I can tell you. It can't be all email. It can't be text. In fact, the least amount of those, we're talking about moving people into a Met category so we can stay in touch with them better. So when you're talking about clients you're working with, you're going to email and text more because they're wanting to buy a house. They've got a contract. They're waiting for information. You can send that in email and text. But you start emailing, texting, or Instagramming to try and get me to find you and connect with you, probably a really, really, really low return. So the more you can mix the mediums up, especially like when we talk about connecting with a realtor for the first time, touching them 8 times in 8 weeks can sound like you're going to be annoying if it's 8 emails in 8 weeks or 8 text messages in 8 weeks or 8 phone calls in 8 weeks, right? I mean, it's like, what am I going to talk about? 8 phone calls in 8 weeks. You mix the medium up and then you're never pestering because it's 1 email in 8 weeks. It's 1 text message in 8 weeks, something in the mail in 8 weeks, a phone call in 8 weeks, right? And some of these are a couple of things, but that's where you get top of mind because you don't overwhelm them with one thing and you're becoming top of mind and gaining that market share. So those plans are just a series of events and it's custom for the days that it's going to happen. So the one we're going to talk about today, we're going to end the call with a simple reconnect plan that's 4 steps, might be 5 steps, depending on if you want to verify your email and clean up your database as well. It is kind of called the database cleanup program. But you have a custom amount of days for your things to happen, and you mix up the mediums between letters, emails, calls, to-dos. So when I talk about writing a timeline, it's like anything you do. Had a coaching call today I don't think Josh is on here. Gosh, what were we talking about? It was something where he gave a call to do something, and I said, so if you're calling them to tell them about a market rate, what are the other 3, 4, and 5 touches around that phone call that you could send in an email, follow up the phone call with a text message, and drop something in the mail to recap that phone call conversation? So, for example, would be if you wanted to create a plan for the reverse mortgage and you want to try and get some more reverse mortgages going, it's like a hot topic right now. So if I'm going to use a script to call the realtors to go, hey, have you heard of these reverse mortgages? Well, what I'm going to do is create a drip plan around this whole reverse mortgage process. I'm not just going to make a phone call to introduce the idea. There's going to be an email that has something they can click to find out more about it, which that might come after my phone call where I've created some interest. There might be a text message that comes before. Have you heard about reverse mortgages? I'm going to give you a call in a day to tell you about it. What you really need to know about it. And then the email may follow up, and then something in the mail, like a brochure or something. If I got 6, 7, 8 touches around it, it's not so much about, am I going to convince them to find me a reverse mortgage deal? It's about me being the information source for new things happening in the mortgage world. And I made 5 or 6 touches out of that one topic. And you can do this with everything. And the more you mix up the mediums, the more chances they're going to click and read one of them. They're going to skip more than half of them. It's like they don't look, I don't check voicemail. Have you ever had somebody say, hey, I only communicate through Messenger? I mean, it's like, that's ridiculous. So if Messenger is not one of your mediums, you could email them, text them, call them, get voicemail, and they've never heard from you. But you send the one thing that's Messenger and it catches their attention. And then they like see that you left a voicemail because you said, hey, I left you a voicemail about it too. They check that and then they're interested. Now they pick up the phone and call you back. So it actually creates the phone, gets the phone ringing, just being top of mind and just playing all this stuff out. But when you really start building this inside of a CRM, you can start assigning the different tasks to people. So on this with phone calls, a lot of times we call, do you need our services? You know, hey, are you thinking about doing anything with mortgage? Are you thinking about buying or selling? And most of the time the answer is no. And then we were taught the other part of the script that's just magical, right? Well, do you know anybody else that is? And we're supposed to like you guys heard these scripts before, right? Just call everybody and ask them if they're doing anything. And if they don't, then you ask them if they know somebody that is. And then we go, okay, well, if you hear of somebody, let me know. Okay, thanks, click. So I just did 2 hours of call lead generation using that script. And how much business do you get at the end of the day or the month? Nobody can think of anybody. So think of this. Don't call for their services. First, call to strengthen your relationship, reconnect, because that call is coming out of left field. Last thing they were thinking about was mortgages. In fact, 98% of them are not moving right now. Only 1 to 2% of them are. And the reason why we use that script is because 1 or 2 out of 100 phone calls, you'll get an appointment. The thing is, if you call people, those same 100 people, to strengthen the relationship and not make it about that, and once you find out for sure if they are one of the 1 or 2, because they'll bring it up and say, oh, it's weird you called today. We're actually thinking about it. I get the same result anyway, but I don't call 98 people and have nowhere to go with it. Right? They just said they're not doing anything. So strengthen the relationship first. They'll bring up the part if they need your services or know somebody that does. So now I'm going to tie it back to our example at the beginning of the call, the 300 past clients. Out of those 300 people, go through the list A to Z. And I want you to write down, do they have kids? Have they graduated college since you talked to them last? Do they have any pets? Do they like dogs? Do they hate cats? Has anybody died? Any of those 300 people, did any of the spouses pass away? And we might be mailing stuff with both their names on it. My spouse has been, my second wife has been gone for 7, 8 years now. I still get stuff for her in the mail. It's like they haven't ever bothered to pick up the phone and call me once just to see how life is going, if I'm even interested in their services. So a lot of people are on this Reconnect call that we're about to go through. They're like, well, what's the script to use? What's the script to use? This is it. This is old sales school family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Remember Ford, right? Just you can remember that because Ford jacked up the Mustang with this new model, in my opinion. How many people agree, like, losing the Mustang? Come on. That's the dumbest thing they could have done. Anyway, so remember Ford, family, occupation, that is your script. Just, I'm just checking in. How's the family doing? I apologize. I haven't stayed in better contact. I was just thinking of you today, and I realized I don't even know how the family's been. How's the family doing? Right. And then they're going to go, what about work? How'd you guys get through COVID? And I mean, COVID gives us a great conversation piece to touch in with people, but it's Ford. That's your script, right? Go to social media. When you put them in your brand plan spreadsheet and you list the names out and you find the address and the phone number, and now they make the list and you're about to call and try and connect, and they answer the phone and you do connect and you use Ford. While you see their name and you're calling them, pull up social media and just scroll through some of the pictures and see what's been going on. If you did that with me right now, you'd see that we got wedding photos attached on my thread. So it's like, oh man, I just saw some wedding photos and I realized I have to apologize. I haven't stayed in touch lately. Who got married? What's going on? Oh, great. Yeah. How's work going? How's job? And get off the phone after you get done with that. But you can even move into that conversation if you have an address and go, hey, by the way, are you still on XYZ Street? You still live in Lee Summit on XYZ Street? And sadly, you're going to hear people when you're doing this for the first time go, oh, no, we moved from there years ago. It's like, oh, so you will have some stomach aches when you go through reconnecting with your database. Just when you thought they were opening your emails and stuff, they've moved twice since then. And they did a new purchase loan twice without you. A friend of mine did it the best way possible in this triangle that I've ever seen, where most people, if you look at this, there's a lot happening here. First of all, the pyramid shows like advertising, direct mail, email. That's how a lot of people do most of their mass marketing. So if you look over to the right, that's your informational zone. You're sending out information, trying to grab their attention so they will click on something and call you back. When we do this as lead generation techniques, it's actually more lead receiving. We're trying to get a message out to get them to call us back about something, right? Or to respond so we can then start talking to them. That's not lead generation, it's lead receiving. But once you connect with somebody and you bring them out of those outer two rings to the inner two rings and you write a handwritten note to follow up the conversation, you move into a new realm that now if you stay in touch with them on phone calls, realtors, you'll hear them doing client appreciation parties. You're doing client appreciation parties. And then you get down to those one-on-one lunch appointments with realtors. That becomes your influential zone where you don't want to just use that up for information, come in and talk about a new program. You're getting one-on-one where you're getting to know them so that you can influence them to increase their business and touch base with their database. Also, you can see where the impact on the left side, there's more impact the more relational and one-on-one something is than if you're not having much impact on an advertising billboard or a direct mail piece. You're waiting for that one person out of 1,000 that it grabs their attention and they pick up the phone and take action on whatever your call to action is. Is this good stuff so far, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it seems kind of basic, but it is so critical that you get it at a high level or you won't even start the master list and start doing the 5 a day. So once you understand it, it really becomes like the only thing that's important to you. So my system will tell me everybody, like these are all people that are on a social media touch that we do once a quarter in between the phone calls. So like when the 8x8 plan ends, the next 1-year follow-up plan is 36 touches or 33 touches, something like that. So there's a phone call every quarter. Now, also every quarter, but in between the phone calls is a touch them on social media, email, text message, a personal message. So these are people that are now like have been in my system either 3 months, a year, 10 years that I'm just supposed to reach out and touch them on social media. And it tells me who this person is. So all I got to do is click on it, send them a text message, email. I'll pull up Facebook and send them a direct messenger or something like that. And then that's just like how my touch, it will break out my calls. So this is showing you the to-dos for this time frame. It'll break out my calls that way. I will print the letters out that way. So my contact management system tells me whose turn it is. What we're doing with the manual spreadsheets right now is getting you into the habit of doing it every day and watching that, because if you did this in a database from day one, you have to be already in the habit to open up your dashboard every day and do what it says to do. So last thing I'm going to go over real quick, because we're right at the top of the hour, is the Reconnect plan is 4 steps. You're seeing 5 here. Send out a letter to 5 people on your list today, and just start at A and go to Z. The first 5 A's, send them a letter. And it says, hey, just wanted to apologize. Haven't done a great job of keeping in touch. I'm going to give you a call in the next few days. 3 days later, it's going to tell me to call them. This could be on a spreadsheet too that says, put the date that I mailed the letter. 3 days later, when I look at that spreadsheet, anything that's 3 days or older, I need to now make the phone call. And hopefully it's not a week or 2 later. So the letter actually says, I'll call you the next day or 2 just to catch up. Then you call. Once you call and get them on the phone, now you're really kind of moving them into the brand plan, which is write the handwritten note and then stay in touch with them, right? In a database, I'll have a task that actually shows up that says start the next plan, which is the 8x8 or the 8 touches in 8 weeks. Now, as a bonus, you could send them an email to follow up the phone call note that you sent 7 days later and just say, it was great catching up. Look forward to keeping in touch, which is kind of what you said in the note. But what you're doing is looking for if the email bounces back, because then I might have a bad email. I add that one as I say it's 4 steps, because that's just for the people that really just cannot let email go. Until you're connected with somebody, email's irrelevant. In fact, you're using it as a crutch and using it too much. So creating those campaigns, it is writing them out on a piece of paper, adding how many touches I want. Anything and everything you do with a real estate agent, if it's going to the office to teach a class, I think you should write out a timeline and get 5 or 6 touches, a couple before you get there to teach the class and a couple after the class, and then mix up the mediums. And just don't worry about content first. Draw out how many touches I want. I want 6 or 8 touches after I teach this class, 4 before, 4 after. And then I'm just going to write email, text, phone call, mail, social media touch. Then I'll figure out what I'm going to send in those things. But I've now mixed up the mediums around the actual event. So obviously the event, the touch after the event would be the handwritten note, right? And then the other ones will be something else, email, whatever. And again, you're just going to work on this stuff between now and the next call. But it just, that letter goes out and it just says, hey, I'm compelled to share an experience that recently happened to me. And I was thinking about how important my past relationships are. And I've done a bad job of keeping in touch. So in my CRM, I can actually create that as a task to tell me to mail that letter. And the CRMs will be able to automate a little bit of this so that you can automate most of it. But until you figure out your CRM and figure that piece out, you might have 8 to-dos in there that you have to touch 8 things. That will be a little harder to keep track of 100 people in 30 days when you have to touch all 8 things for the next 2 months. But as you do that, you'll be able to start automating this. The one thing you don't automate is the handwritten note. That immediately goes out in the mail, immediately following a great connection. And when you write that note, don't use the words I, me, or my in it. Try to write the note without the word I, me, or my. I'm going to let that one hang there because I want to see how many notes you guys write in the next week or so, and then hear back from you what you've learned from that right there, the no I, me, or my. Now, for the first few notes that you write, when you accidentally see the word I in there, which you will, don't throw the note away, just send it. You're not going to blow your business by doing that, but when you develop this mastery level of writing notes, without that, it doesn't become about you, it becomes about them, and it's only for that first note to get through the limbic part of the brain so that they will pay attention to everything else you're sending them. But I always write my plans out on paper. So here's your action items. And I'll email this to everybody. Write a Reconnect letter and send me your Reconnect letter. What's your script going to be for that handwritten note? Actually write out a general note that would be, it was great talking to you on the phone today. Super excited you answered. It was great to hear your voice. Looking forward to keeping in touch, Brad. There's like a sample handwritten note, but write one out. And then in between those two spaces between, it was great connecting. Glad you took time to answer the phone. Notice there's no I, me, or my in that. Then you could say, glad to hear the kids are doing great. Glad to hear work's doing good. Reference something from the phone call. And then at the bottom, it's looking forward to keeping in touch. Rock, right? Ford, just have that out on a piece of paper. We actually use color coded when we capture blue for buyer, where I'm going to, when I connect with them and I start talking, I'm going to get their name, their address, their phone number. I'm just going to work that stuff into the conversation so that I can write them the note. And there's a video there at tinyurl.com, database goldmine, to watch that video. That will kind of put in, that's just an interview that a guy did with me. And then work on your numbers that are in your action guide. If you guys send me those, I'm going to pay attention to them. If you don't, I mean, I won't. I don't have anything to pay attention to. So our next call will be that second week of July. We'll get past the 4th of July. And we're going to be talking about the habits of really working on those calls every day. If you work on your master list and do some of this stuff, you'll have questions about calling every day, becoming familiar with your CRM, knowing how to track all these numbers, using the social media sourcing, and we'll just take that to another level. All right, good stuff.
Quick question, Coach.
Yes.
So handwritten notes, how about what is your opinion of using handwritten, the website that basically a robot writes things up and mails it?
Yeah, if it's like your handwriting in a note card, those are I mean, you know, they're not handwritten, right?
Yeah, they're robot written, but they look like handwritten. You're not a fan of those?
Those can be touches. They are not a handwritten note. Immediately following the phone call, it would take you more time to go in and type out what you're doing without it being a bulk mail than just writing the handwritten note.
Got it.
Yep. Notecardcafe.com. Notecardcafe.com. You can buy a bulk of 75 cards and envelopes for $16.99. Notecardcafe.com. There's even a real estate section that has door knockers and doors, and there's all kinds of themes in there, but they're high quality, blank inside. You cannot go to any store and get 75 note cards and envelopes this nice for $16 anywhere on the planet. So it's a good investment. 75, if you order 2 packages, you'll be covered for the next month and a half if you do 5 a day every day. So your goal is to buy 1 pack and use it up before the month is over. That'll tell you if you've got the right habit going. Great question.
Coach, I had a question. When is the best time that you have found to make these calls?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I mean, there's all kinds of, think about anytime somebody tells you to hand address the envelope, that's called a trick or a gimmick to get somebody to open the envelope. So I can tell you right then, I'm not sending something to somebody I'm connected with, that they like me and trust me yet, right? So when you hear this stuff about the best time to call is on Tuesdays between 3 and 4 p.m., you're talking about trying to catch people on the phone as a gimmick or a trick to get them to answer the phone. If you and I connected and you wrote me a note and you follow this plan, I should have you saved in my phone. And if you call me, I know you're not calling about mortgages to bug me with a script. So I'm probably going to take the call if I'm available. Right. And if I leave a voicemail and we're connected, I'll probably call you back. Because actually, for most people, if you're calling them on week 4 or week 8 and you call and you get their voicemail, just turn around. It's somebody you're connected with. So just send a text. Hey, nothing urgent. Just thought of you today. And now I got a phone call and a text message, 2 touches in one day with a person I'm connected with. You wouldn't send that to a stranger. So anytime you're trying to fit stuff into certain things, you're getting back in. It's your old brain trying to pull you back into those outer 2 rings and trying to play what I call the tricks and the gimmicks to get somebody to pay attention to you.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I guess in my mind, I'm trying to time block 10 to 12 in my time, because my mornings I want to do, get my day straight or whatever. And then 10 o'clock to 12, but I'm leaving messages.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
so that doesn't count as one of my 5. Is what I'm trying to get to. I'm having a hard
Nope.
time connecting to 5 people.
Well, if you call 20 to 25 a day, 5 people will answer their phone. And if you do 25 a day every day for a month and you still get the same results, then you need to do 50 a day, 50 dials a day. You're going to do however many dials it takes to get 5 people to connect. And if you get 3, yeah, if you actually are just horrible and you're so disconnected from your database, you have to dial 100 numbers. It'll take you 5.5 hours. But I know for a fact, if you dial 100 numbers, you're going to get 50 people to answer. 30 of them will hang up on you or be very short. 20 will be nice and polite. 5 you're going to have some kind of connection with. And if that takes 5.5 hours to do because you're calling strangers, it would be the best 5.5 hours you could do in your business every day for the next 30 days.
Okay. Now, when I'm going A through Z, like you've taught, and I leave them a message and text them, go on to the next. Do I go back to that next person, or that person I left a message with?
Yep.
Later? I mean, how soon later?
Yep, just say nothing urgent. So first of all, they won't even know that you've called them. It can be anytime later. Just go through your whole list first, and anybody you haven't gotten, you're going through a second time. Because you're coming out of left field and because you left the message and because they didn't call you back, they don't even remember who you are.
So keep going through the list and then go back to them.
Yep.
You're saying, okay.
And that's why the master list, if you got an address and phone number, you're just going to call through everybody. You want to have a good 100 people with addresses and phone numbers at all times. So whenever you're doing your call time, you're just calling through till 5 people answer. Then you're going to pick up where you left off. And you might even be calling back through that list again. You're going to keep adding more addresses and phone numbers every single day. So your master list gets more and more full. By the time you get through the ones you have addresses and phone numbers for and you go back, yeah, eventually they're going to pick up the phone. And sometimes your voicemails are really short too. It's just like, hey, it's Lauren. I know this call's coming out of the blue. It's nothing urgent. Just was thinking of you today and I hadn't talked to you in a while. If I send the reconnect letter out first, that one I'm going to call them every day for 2 or 3 days because it said I would call you in the next day. So the first one would be, hey, it's Lauren. Hopefully you got my letter. Just calling to check in, see how you're doing. I just realized I hadn't touched base with you in a while. And then tomorrow I'll call them again because I already sent the letter. So that one's a little bit different play. I'm going to call them again tomorrow and go, hey, it's Lauren. No big deal. You're probably busy. And I'm going to call them the next day and go, hey, it's me again. I said I'd call you in a day or 2. Just wanted to catch up. You're probably super, super busy. It's nothing urgent. Just get back to me when you can. Just wanted to catch up. And then I will go ahead and drop the note in the mail and say, hey, I was trying to reach you. Hopefully this got to you. I'm not sure if my phone calls got to you. Again, nothing urgent, just was thinking of you and wanted to catch up. And then I might just put them on a generic kind of follow-up email, blast, whatever. Hopefully it has a phone call in there. So eventually I can connect with them and move them onto the 8x8. Does that make sense?
Question.
Yep.
I personally hate voicemails. I do not like when people leave me voicemails because they're a waste of time.
Yep.
Should we just eliminate voicemails and just send text messages instead?
See, now if you get away from the phone call, you're not going to get them to text you back. It's not, you're coming out of left field.
No, I'm still going to call them, but if they don't answer, I'm not going to leave them a voicemail. I'm just going to send text.
No, yeah. Then you could say, hey, just tried to catch up, nothing urgent. That's what I would say. I would do that if I knew them well. Now, if it's a stranger call, I may or may not do that. I might just hang up. I might still leave a voicemail, but the goal is to get them on the phone because I can't really write the note. If you try to force the note before you connect with them, it's spammy again.
Yeah,
It's a trick or a gimmick. It's not heartfelt. They don't attach the feeling to that phone call from a few days ago that, wow, you are genuine and you really did just check in on me.
Got it.
Yeah. See, they're doing most of the talking on this call. I'm trying not to talk at all. And if they say, oh my gosh, it's so great to hear from you. How's the mortgage business? It's like, it's crazy market, but today I was really calling to catch up with you. Honestly, I'll give you a call next week and tell you about the more. Oh no, I was just curious, otherwise we would roll right into it. Oh my gosh, we've got these great programs. And now I lost the whole thing. I'm not connected again.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I want to share something like a really quick, I started making phone calls for birthdays. And during the most recent call, I felt like shit. I felt so guilty. And that makes me want to call people more often. One of the amazing clients that I had a great experience. They had a great experience, the most gracious people ever. When I called wife to congratulate on birthday, I found out that the husband went through surgery, heart surgery, almost died. And I felt super guilty for not keeping in touch with them because they're so lovely and I was so out of touch with them. I felt like the lowest person ever. And that's why I think, it's super, super important to reestablish this connection for all of us, because they loved us, they had great experience, and we just got busy and never kind of kept in touch. So just want to kind of share that.
Yeah, guys. I mean, again, to get that first relationship started, you're going to hear people that have moved. They're not going to remember who you are. You can play it on that phone call really generic. It's like if you're calling somebody and you don't really remember, you're looking at Facebook, you still don't kind of recognize them, but you're on Facebook and you've got happy birthdays to them. I mean, just call and say, hey, I just was thinking of you. And I was trying to remember, where the heck did we meet? Have you ever had these phone calls where you're like, man, was it this or was it that? Was it at church? God, I can't remember. Oh, it was the library, so that's what these calls are all about. If you have to even play that card, just go, I was trying to remember where we first met. I know it's been a while, but you really kind of don't because you're disconnected. And believe me, people have moved recently and you just got to go, well, that's awesome. I mean, that's awesome. You guys got a house. I apologize for not being available or being top of mind for you to know to call me. Hopefully you had a great experience. Oh, I mean, it was okay, or yeah, it was good, or it was whatever. It's like, oh, that's always good to hear. Most of the time you're going to hear is a horror story and you go, well, I have to apologize for not doing a better job of keeping in touch with you. That won't ever happen again. Right now, I just told them I'm going to hammer you for the rest of your life with stuff in the mail, phone calls, text messages, emails. Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys, take this information, work through this, watch the recording again, go back through your notes. Let me know how it's going. I mean, stick up with this because it's going to start getting progressively bigger, badder, faster. And man, I mean, there's so many different types of follow-up plans we could talk about way, way past this, but the Reconnect is the first one. All right.
Thank you. Have a
You
great
bet,
day,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you. See you next month.